There's a snake in the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room. And also, quarterback Russell Wilson is bringing back vintage Big Ben Roethlisberger to the playing field for the Steelers. But first, before I get more into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also, like this video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, let's talk about the Russell Wilson story first, because the Pittsburgh Steelers offense has opened up with Russell Wilson leading the way. Wilson has now won all 3 games of his first 3 games as a Pittsburgh Steeler, throwing 737 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, and just 1 interception, and also a rushing touchdown. So, Colin Cowherd, he was talking about this year's Pittsburgh Steelers, and specifically the last few games with Russell Wilson, and he compared it to the days of Big Ben Roethlisberger, saying basically vintage Big Ben is back in Pittsburgh with how well the Steelers are performing with Russell Wilson under center. He said the Steelers are now 3-0 with Russell Wilson and averaging about 30 a game. I went back and I took Russell Wilson with Pete Carroll in Seattle, Russell Wilson the 1 year with Sean Payton, and Russell Wilson with Mike Tomlin. The 3 times he has competent coaches. And you know what he gives you? Yeah, 64% completion percentage. A passer rating of 100, over 100. He doesn't miss any starts. He throws a really nice deep ball, and when I watch what he has done to Pittsburgh, it's a little Big Ben. He's totally a different player. He has brought the deep ball back to Pittsburgh. So veteran coach, great defense, tough at home, solid run game, good deep ball offense. That's a really good team. End quote. So, when you look at what Colin Cowherd said, you look at Russell Wilson compared to Big Ben, and they aren't the same quarterback. Big Ben was not the same player Russell Wilson is. But in terms of orchestrating a dynamic offense and injecting life into the Steelers' offense, that's something you could compare. Because that's what Big Ben used to do. Be able to throw the ball around the field, spread the ball out, and even though you look at one big target in Antonio Brown, that's kind of what's going on right now with one big target in George Pickens, and the other guys spreading it around with the other guys as well. So you look at the accuracy, the poise, the decision making. Yes, you could compare that to vintage Big Ben, because it looks like Russell Wilson is having a great time back there under center and just dropping back into just passing the ball, reading the defense, and he's able to do it at a high level. And the Steelers haven't had that since Big Ben left the Steelers and retired. So you look at the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers, like Colin Cowherd has said, it's run the ball, have a great defense, and then just be physical and make good decisions. So that's what he has done, and that's what Big Ben was doing in his later days. So basically comparing Big Ben in his later days to Russell Wilson right now, and they're somewhat of the same quarterback. Kind of controlling the game, making sure that you get the ball to the places it needs to be. Yes, Russell Wilson is more alive in terms of scoring more points than Big Ben was in his final 2 years, but it's about controlling the football, controlling the game, and that's something he has done really well. So, Russell Wilson, he's playing a really good job for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if he continues this up, the Steelers could make a deep playoff push, and we don't know how far the Steelers could really go. Because right now, it's only 3 games in to Russell Wilson as a Pittsburgh Steeler. This offense could get way better, way more dynamic with new players like Mike Williams now on the team. The offense could open up even more, or this offense could stall out and teams could get used to what the Steelers are doing, and there's more film now because it's been 3 games that Russell Wilson has been under center for the Steelers at quarterback. So maybe it could stall out. We don't know the ceiling of the Steelers team. They're going to start facing some really good teams here down the stretch, facing their division, facing the Chiefs, facing the Eagles. So we're going to see what the Steelers team is made of. But right now it looks like Russell Wilson, he is playing a really good job at quarterback. Many people thought he was washed. Many people thought that his days at quarterback might have been over after Sean Payton benched him in Denver, and then he was released and cut from the team because of his contract. Who would have thought that maybe he would come in to a team, be the starter, and bring them to the Super Bowl? bring them to the playoffs. Well, he has that chance now with the Steelers to be a starter once again, and he's proving why he has been a good quarterback all through his career, getting the job done when he's been in the game and leading the Steelers to victory week after week and keeping them composed as an offense and bringing everyone together, being that leader. You look at the leadership skills that Big Ben had in his later days with the younger players. That's also comparable to what Russell Wilson's doing now. Because you look at George Pickens, it looks like he's not having those outbursts anymore ever since Russell Wilson took over at quarterback. So you look at that leadership that he's brought, and he's dealing with the younger players on offense as well. You look at the Steelers offense line, they're basically all young. There's a lot of rookies or second-year guys, third-year guys, four-year guys. So you look at the wide receivers, a lot of three-year guys, Calvin Austin, George Pickens, and then there's some other guys like a veteran like Mike Williams there. You look at Pat Fryermuth, he's still young as well. So you bring this young offense together, and that's what Big Ben did in his later days as well. So vintage, older Big Ben is back in Steelers, and it's a little bit more alive now because the offense is doing much better. Russell Wilson's arm is alive, and he's getting the job done. So I understand where Colin Cowherd is coming from, and hopefully this continues up and the Steelers go far. But anyway, that's enough with that story. Let's move on to one other. And this one's more of a funny, interesting story that Cameron Hayward has brought up on his podcast. It is that the Commanders planted a snake in the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room. So you may be thinking, what does this mean? Well, if you didn't watch Cameron Hayward's podcast, he said that before the Pittsburgh Steelers game against the Washington Commanders, he went out there getting ready to warm up. And when he comes back in to the locker room, everyone was a little shocked because it was like, what's going on? And there was a snake in the locker room. There was a snake, and it was coming out of the bottom of Russell Wilson's locker, Cameron Hayward said. Everyone was thrown for a loop. So, getting ready for the game, probably like 15 minutes before the game when they go back in, getting ready to go back out after, and then you see a snake in the locker room. How did a snake even end up in the locker room? So, was it planted by the Commanders? Who knows? Why is it coming out of Russell Wilson's locker, out of every person's locker? So, that just shows how composed Russell Wilson is too. Right before the game, something happens. He goes out there, throws touchdowns. So Russell Wilson is that veteran. He is that vintage guy. And you look at this, and this is just a funny story. And Cameron Hayward described how Mike Tomlin went over it, and he said this: a snake is in our locker. Nobody got it. It slithered right back under. Mike T was like, we can make a big deal about this, and there being a snake, but we got to win. So it kind of just played into our mantra. And that is so right, end quote. So that is so right, because the Steelers, that's Mike Tomlin's whole thing. Just win. Just win football games. Doesn't matter what's happening on the field, off the field, just win the game. Do whatever you have to do to win this game. And that's exactly how he handled the snake situation. It's not that big of a deal there being a snake in there, but obviously, like Cameron Hayward said, you're thrown for a loop because you're not expecting it. It hasn't ever happened to them in the past. And when you see a snake, you're obviously going to be, oh, there's a snake. So they're able to handle it well, come out there, score a touchdown right away, and get the game going. And it's even wilder because the snake was never actually caught. So it's still lurking around in the Commanders' Steelers locker room. Anyway, that's just a fun little story there. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about both these topics, both these stories. Is vintage Big Ben back in Russell Wilson for the Pittsburgh Steelers, or you just think they're completely different players? And yeah. And also let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about the snake story. Do you think the Commanders planted it? And let me know your thoughts in the comments below how the Steelers handled that situation. And Mike T and his quote on that. It's just a vintage and just another saying that Mike Tomlin always says. So, with that being said, let's end this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers. News, updates, highlights, analysis reports, everything like that. Don't matter what it is. No matter if it's a weird story, rumors, everything, or just highlights and breakdowns. I covered all for Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the best spot for everything Steelers if you want to watch and listen and not have to read it. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, until tomorrow's video, I'll see you guys all later. I'm out. Peace.